All I can say about the month of July is that we're deep in it. Look at this rain right now. It's pouring down. It's a Mercury retrograde in Cancer, and we're feeling each and every layer before we're being permitted to frolic on to the next thing that we're dreaming and fantasizing about, which is probably pretty strong right now, given that Neptune is stationing retrograde. And it just feels like this big soupy pot of possibilities, which feels frustrating sometimes because they're only possibilities right now. And it's like, I know this seed has so much potential if only it had the exact right conditions to grow. I know this could become something. So instead of focusing on the frustration of what has not yet materialized or sprouted, focus on the conditions of the land that's going to be needed for that future inception point or conception point. Because I do feel like you're conceiving something right now, like that could be relevant literally, but I also feel like creatively there's this swell throughout the Mercury retrograde of you collecting data and information about your emotions and your relationships and taking inventory. And I feel like all of that is going to come out. It's going to come out in the form of like a project. For some of you guys, music could be significant, or writing. But I just feel like whatever the medium, it's going to come out somehow. And also in many different forms, I heard, not just one thing. Like, I think a lot of this possibility energy, it's actually helping us to see that we're not as limited as sometimes we make it out to be, which I also feel like is tying into the retrograde because of how this retrograde ends. So on July 23rd, when Mercury stations, that will also be right around the time that Saturn is stationing retrograde. And Mercury will be not exactly squaring Saturn, but within 2 degrees of the orb. So it will be this checkpoint of, hey, this is not falling into your lap right now. This is off the table for now, right? This is not where things are headed. This is the blockage. This is the thing standing in the way. And sometimes it's really just a matter of time and patience, right? But I feel like with Saturn, there's also something about like once you know the limitations, once you understand the blockage, you can then get more info on how to dissolve it, right? And that's where Neptune comes into play. Neptune is like, if you can imagine something that transcends these limitations, then it can actually occur. Yes, indeed. But you have to be a little bit crazy to go there in a way. Like your mind has to work that way, especially with Neptune and Aries. It's like you have to be willing to kind of go out on a limb, trailblaze, do something that hasn't been done before, do something that's seen as a little bit out there, but that is wildly creative or genius. So just because you might fear the judgment doesn't mean you're off track, right? It just is like, no one's ever seen this before. No one's ever seen an example within your bloodline of someone who can do this. Maybe even within your community of origin, no one where you come from is able to beat the odds in this way. Or if it's not like beating the odds economically, it's like you might just come from a remote area or a place where there's not much of what you're interested in, but you're the one that's kind of like the ambassador, and that's bringing that to your community or showing other people that yes, indeed, there is a different path. It doesn't always have to look like we've seen it look in the past. There's something that tradition has that's very valuable for us that we can use and leverage, but there's also something about tradition that can slow you down. So I just feel like right now we're seeing kind of both sides of everything with Mars and Gemini, and just in general, the past Gemini season, the month of June, really illuminated kind of the bifold nature of everything. And now with Mars and Gemini, we're contending with it. And it's not just this or that, it's both at the same time. It's dream really big and reach for the stars, but also what are you doing to sustain that? It's not just existing up here, it's existing in here, and you have to live it out loud. And I did this because it's kind of in between the throat and the heart chakra, right? It's not it's not just doing things without intention, nor is it just setting intentions without taking action. Both need to be co-occurring for there to be a point, a focus, an angle, a direction. And that's what Mars and Gemini teaches us. It can feel counterintuitive to have to do this and to do that. Like, for example, as someone who is an artist, I have to have one foot in the business world and one foot in the creative world. And if I try to abandon my position in either world, things get weird, right? If it's too business oriented, I lose that intentionality. If it's too creatively focused and not enough business focus, I get frustrated because I don't have the opportunities to share what I'm actually creating. So what I'm learning right now with Mars and Gemini is that you got to be a little bit of this and you got to be a little bit of that. Masculine and feminine energy stay balanced. It's got to be a ping pong match, which can be tiring, right? Especially with how Uranus has been here in Gemini. It's not just an ordinary like back and forth. Okay, I'm going to do this and then I'm going to do that. It's like I'm doing two things at once and I'm doing two things that I've never done before at once. So that's a lot of mental overload. The multitasking can get out of hand, like the ADD tendencies of wanting to do everything at once. Like that can definitely be the shadow side of this. So that's not what I'm necessarily saying is what you have to do. In fact, you might actually be aware of the ways in which you need to juggle less, right? You might still need to have that two-pronged approach, or maybe a multi-pronged approach, however many prongs. But at the same time, you only have so many hours in a day, right? That's what Saturn reminds us of. It's like, this is the limitations of time, of your energy reserves and what you have to give and dedicate to your life every day, whatever projects you're involved in, whatever you're building. So where do you need to delegate? Where do you need to call in for help? Where do you need to tap into those connections? And that's where this Cancer season is really good at kind of reminding us like, hey, sometimes we think it's about the opportunity or it's about the institution or it's about the external validation, but it's actually about each other and how you guys are pouring into each other each and every day, right? And how that reflects the self-love and the love for your creator every single day. That's really what using your network, using your connections is about. It's not just about like, literally using people and then see ya, I got what I wanted. It's an ecosystem. It's symbiosis. It's making everything a renewable resource when it comes to love. Ooh, so it's like in the past, we might have easily kind of cut ties or burnt bridges because we were in survival mode and we were so focused on just like protecting our peace and like figuring out who we are. And there was that sort of quest we were on that did feel very self-focused and individualized, in a way that we might just not have had the capacity to involve other people in that process because our own barriers and our own ability to decipher what's true for us and what's not were too weak. We were still building that. I feel like we've overcome a lot of that. And so now we're in a place where we want to kind of, what's that word? Like when there's like a castle and there's a moat around the castle, like let the drawers, like what am I thinking of right now? Like the drawstring bridge. Okay. Stay with me here. It's like we are unrolling the drawstring bridge to connect again and to like let people in again into our abode and actually get to know us again with fresh eyes, with a fresh mind. And I think that there's something really renewing about this, right? And it's kind of like we're seeing that even if these connections have always been there in our lives, we need them more than ever right now. We need to link arms more than ever. while still standing tall in our authenticity. Yes, we're not going to become a chameleon energy, but we do need to have this kind of support system for things to be successful outwardly, and not just for that success, but to actually be able to enjoy the success and the momentum that is coming. Might not be here yet, right? You might feel like you're kind of moving through molasses right now, but there's an intentional 11:11. When I said that, there's an intentionality behind that, because I feel like God doesn't want you to focus so much on what is seen outwardly by the world, but rather the internal health and state of things in your life, the health of your relationships, how you're showing up for yourself, how you're taking care of yourself, how you are handling responsibilities, if you're negligent or if you're on top of it. Like, God really is asking us to take inventory at this time. This is the Cancer season of just putting everything on the table, and it's like having a big old yard sale and kind of assigning value to things. And it's like, I just want this gone. Okay, this was a piece of my life. I'm ready to let it go. But oh no, don't give that away, right? Like this needs to stay here in the nest, right? So there's literally, metaphorically, take it as you will. We are really looking at everything that's accumulated, and it is a job, it is a process, and maybe it's not the thing that's recognized on social media or like in that public spotlight kind of way, but it's very much the core of everything else. And that's why I think part of this core is not just, you know, our relationships with each other, but our relationship to source, to God himself, to like our faith right now is really being highlighted in this Mercury retrograde, because we're reminded of instances in which people have let us down, especially people like that have been caretakers for us, such as our parents or our teachers or people we grew up with. And it's not that we're carrying a resentment and we're blaming those circumstances for why we are in the place we are now. It's more so that we, again, are seeing limitations of everything. So we're seeing the humanity in everybody, for better and for worse. And it's like, by looking at those things, we don't have to do it, again, we don't have to do it in a way where we're like scapegoating. But we can do this in a way where we understand the deeper wiring at play, why we've kind of ended up where we are now, what we were created to do here. And even in the hardships we've endured that have tried to take us out of our purpose, or that have tried to take us out of communion with one another and God, we still return to this place every damn time. And so there's something significant about this faith piece, this invisible thread that's always connecting you to your own creative divine energy that comes from God. And we're really seeing the magic that encapsulates. And it's not like dark magic where we manipulate things, or it's even like manifestation stuff. It's not really about getting what you want using this magic. It's more so about tapping into the undercurrents, the patterns that are always playing out. That's why I feel like astrology is helpful, and it can be a divine tool when used properly, because it's not so much about controlling and predicting and manipulating exactly, I know this is going to happen then, so I'm going to do this and that. It's not really about that, because I think if one thing Uranus has shown us in the past few weeks is that even the best of soothsayers and prophets still can have blind spots and don't have control over how everything's playing out, right? Like, that is truly in God's hands. And so the more that we try to play God, the more that we make a fool of ourselves, and the more that we disenchant ourselves with life, even if we think that we are working with magic or we're living this kind of mystical experience. That control panel energy really only belongs in the hands of God. And so I just feel like some of us have kind of learned the hard way with that. And some of us feel like right now it's kind of like we're in limbo, or we don't have a whole lot of sense of like, okay, like this is my plan and this is exactly what's going to happen. We might only know the next step or the next 2 steps. And even that feels like we just kind of have to take those steps before we then know what's after that, right? Like there's a lot of like this mysterious energy. I don't really feel like this is going away. Like I think that we're going to be living this way for the next few months, to be honest, of like, okay, I know that the next task for me is this, and then after I do this, the next thing will become apparent. But like if I try to plan 3, 4, 5, however many steps ahead, I just keep getting drawn back to the same place. So it's like, okay, let's start with the low-hanging fruit then. Let's start with the low-hanging fruit because that's the sweetest. Those are the ripest fruits, right? Those are the fruits that are actually ready to be harvested. Some of you guys are running into blockages because you're trying to harvest things that are not blooming yet. They're not ripe yet. They're still green, right? You got to wait for the colorfulness to come through. And then it's like a very obvious, like, I know this is ready now for the picking. Until you get there, don't fuss with it. Just keep watering it, keep showing up for it, keep doing what you have to do, and whistle while you work. Whistle while you work. That's what Saturn is going to preach to us in the next few weeks when Mercury backs right up into that square. And the sun already has been hitting the square with Saturn, so that's why I feel like I've been tapping into it more, because it's already being illuminated. And I think that all of this stuff, right, about like taking inventory of our relationships, and we're going to need all the tools we can get to work with these limitations, right? We're going to need each other. We're going to say, hey, when I go to this store, I try to knock and no one comes. Do you have the code? Do you think you could share it with me? Right? Because I know that over here, you know, I have this code for this, so I'm happy to share it with you too. And that's where we can really build a strong community and network. It's not about gatekeeping or hoarding resources or I want to be on top, so I'm going to just stay in my own lane. This energy is very much so like we are actually stronger when we come up together, because otherwise it's very lonely at the top. And something about the Capricorn full moon last week, I think really made that apparent to me, is that like when you're following the path of idols and worshiping worldly success or just like material things, it's a losing game. It's a lose-lose situation even when you get what you want. And that's why like you hear these people, especially in the entertainment industry, be like, yeah, it's lonely at the top because you don't know who you can trust. You know, you feel like people are always trying to use you, or they have an ulterior motive for being close to you. And so that's why the work we're doing in this Cancer retrograde of pruning our relationships and linking arms with each other, it's so important, because that's going to be the thing that grounds us when we get to those next levels of responsibility and visibility. Because I do feel like a lot of you guys watching are really meant to be seen. And part of why that's been held off, or you've gotten like tidbits of it, but then it hasn't fully bloomed, is because your support system, your foundation system needed to be reinforced for that to truly be enjoyed and for it to truly settle in the way that God intended for it. Like, God is not against success for you. God does not necessarily want you to just be this like overly humble yourself to the point where you don't live out your purpose and you lack the courage to follow the path, right? Like, that's the thing. Like, God wants you to celebrate your successes and not be afraid of that. But when that becomes all consuming, or when that becomes your whole identity, and then you forget the importance of that inner circle and also just your own inner state and your own inner flow, it's like, don't get too big for your britches, right? Like, there's ebbs and flows and seasons of relationships, but regardless of what energies are passing through certain connections at this time, whether it's driving you apart or bringing you together, you still need people. you still need love. And first and foremost, you have to find that love from yourself. And that is kind of where, like, once you fix that source, once you fix the fountain of love that lies within you, you are able to water so many cups around you effortlessly without feeling drained all the time. And also, it's just easier to take care of yourself and to do your routine. It doesn't feel like such a chore. Like, oh, I have to go to the gym now. Oh, I have to cook now. It's like, oh, I have to clean my house now. It's like, no, I get to do these things out of a place of love and not obligation. Actually, let me rephrase that. Love and obligation are actually part of the same thing, because when you love someone or when you love something and you care about it, you do feel a sense of obligation, duty, responsibility to show up for it. So obligation might be like kind of like the bare minimum or like the baseline vibration that love is then stacked on top of, but it's still there, right? So like when we do things, there is a sense of obligation. I should do this because it is better for me, for my mental health, my physical health, etc. But it's not just obligation. It's obligation married to love and truly wanting to do these things because you love the feeling of what you get out of it. Even if in the moment it kind of sucks or it's not exactly how you'd be preferring to spend your time, you learn to love and embrace the process and every single step of the process, even the parts that are not your favorite, because that's what makes you feel like I did something here, right? I did something with my time. I'm taking care of myself, and the work I'm putting in, it's a testament of that. And it's also a testament of my faith in my purpose and in God and in like this whole connection to source that we talked about. That is showing physical evidence of like that connection and living it out loud, if that makes sense. So that's what I wanted to talk to you guys about today. I feel like the messages just are endless at this time. There's a lot to tap into with this Mercury retrograde. So don't be afraid to share, whether it be publicly or just writing in your journal or just having a conversation with someone close to you. Don't be afraid to express what's been coming up, because there's been a lot of interesting discoveries in this Mercury retrograde, and I think there will continue to be more, especially as we get into the eclipse territory next month. So the discoveries are not slowing down, they're just beginning, and I'm excited to see what we uncover next time. Beijinhos!